On Tuesday, May 6, AMD, also known as Advanced Money Destroyer or Advanced Micro Devices, will report its next quarterly figures. Now, for some of you who don't know, this is usually a weakish quarter, all things considered. We've already seen the numbers from Intel, of course. It's not apples to apples, but at least we've got some information. Seasonally weak quarter. Now, for AMD specifically, of course, the focus is still going to be on the data center side of things, on AI revenue. Now, remember 3 months ago, they didn't really give us guidance for the full year when it comes to AI revenue. We know that in 2024, that was, well, in excess of $5 billion. Some analysts thought it would double in 2025. Some others said around $8.5 billion. I do think it's going to be around $8.59 billion, but I don't think we're going to get a real number next week. I think they'll wait another 3 months or so when the MI350 gets launched. And so in this video, let's go over everything you need to know in preparation of that earnings report. Special thanks to FinChat as well. They're running a very good promotion this week, 25% off. So there's a link down in the description and in the pinned comment. You should definitely try it out. I mean, new users do get FinChat Pro for free for 2 weeks. And then if you really like it, you can use that link, 25% off until Thursday. So make sure you test it out. And if you want to support me even further, of course, hit the like button, subscribe as well, and do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment to the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. All right, so at the time of making this video, AMD stock is back under $95. It has a market cap of $156.2 billion, and year to date, it's down around 21%. Now, of course, if you look at the trading 12-month PE, that's still very, very high, 96.6 times. There were some one-time things there. Then if you look at the forward one, that's much better, 21.9 times. But as you know, AMD is still expected to grow quite rapidly. Revenue growth for the forward 2 years here, 21.7%. And EPS is actually expected to grow much faster than that, over 34%. Now, if you look at what the market is expecting AMD to report this upcoming quarter, revenue of around $7.11 billion, and the range there is quite small, between $7 to $7.28 billion for the next quarter, and that's expected to go up each and every quarter afterwards. If we look at EPS, this is very interesting. So EPS is expected to be 94 cents currently. The range is between 90 cents and $1.05. But look at what happens a quarter after that. Consensus figure is basically flat, so 90 cents yet again. But here the range is very, very different. So here the range is between 38 cents and $1.19. And then after that, we are going up and up, but the range becomes, well, larger and larger. Looking at free cash flow, we see about the same pattern here. So consensus figure, $1.63 billion, or the range here is between 1.2 to 2.49 billion dollars. But look at what happens 3 months from now. Consensus figure a bit lower than right now, $1.38 billion, and the range is between 183 million to 3.4 billion dollars. Quite strange. But maybe it will have to do with a one-time impact that some analysts are expecting. Now, looking at the margins for AMD. So here again, we are here on a FinChat, the stock research platform that you've been seeing quite a lot in my videos. We're going to look at a couple of segments and KPIs, which are company-specific metrics that you can find here on FinChat. But first up, I do want to focus on gross margins all the way since, well, before the pandemic. So Q3 2019, that was at 43.1%. We are now above 50%. More specifically, last quarter, we were closer to 54%. If we look at free cash flow margin, for example, same period, we're closer to 10%. And last quarter, we are back above 10% at 14.2%. Now, of course, for a long period of time, we were in this single digit range. Of course, there were those one-time things. We've had acquisitions, we've also had increases in CapEx, as you can see right here. So that did impact free cash flow margin, but all in all, I do think that we are going to see this trajectory continue. I do think that this is going to be a company where free cash flow is going to grow year after year. We can actually see this right here. Free cash flow for 2025 is expected to grow by 181.7%, followed by 16.1% in fiscal 26. And then a reacceleration in growth, 48% growth year over year to reach $11.32 billion in 2027. And of course, that growth is driven by data center revenue. I mean, data center revenue last year increased by 93.6%. Even the client side of things did very well. That did grow also quite fast year after year. Yes, the two businesses that are dragging, let's say, revenue growth down and of course earnings as well is the gaming and the embedded side of things. But as I said, and as they said, in the back half of the year, that headwind should be turning into a tailwind, and embedded especially is a very, very good business, a business with high margins, so should definitely help them on the bottom line. Now, all of this, of course, you can check on FinChat. You can look at the different segments of their revenue, where the revenue is coming from. This is also something that we've talked about in a previous video. A lot of revenue, well, as a percentage of overall revenue, is coming from China, more so than an Nvidia, for example. You can check that out, and you can check, of course, the EBIT figures as well. So all of that on FinChat, you've seen this countless times. So if you want to try it out, new users will get FinChat Pro for free for 2 weeks, and then special offer for this week only, 25% off if you use my link, which is much better than the usual 15%. Now, I do want to show you a couple of extra things here, more focused. So this here is client and a gaming revenue, which, by the way, there is going to be a restructuring where we're going to look at the upcoming earnings report. So fortunately, the data going forward, well, is going to be a bit strange. But anyways, this is what has happened. Look at gaming revenue. For example, in 21, 22, 23, it was either higher than client or just a bit below. But look at what has happened in 2024. Client revenue, over $7 billion, whereas gaming was just 2.5, let's call it $2.6 billion. Look at operating income for gaming. For 3 straight years, that was above $900 million. Last year, barely $290 million of operating income. And so yes, moving forward, I do think that gaming and embedded, which again last year were down 58% and 33% respectively, net revenue that is, operating income was also down quite a lot. Well, there will come a quarter where the year-over-year comparisons are just going to be very, very easy, where demand is actually going to reaccelerate a bit. And that's where things could get a bit more interesting, right? Because of course, these are right now by far not the biggest segments for AMD, and definitely not the biggest focus for AMD either. But if we can get data center that still continues to grow quite rapidly, client that continues to grow rapidly and maybe takes even more market share from Intel, and then on top of that, we might get suddenly 2 segments that have been dragging the business down a little bit. They could start adding to the top and bottom lines as well going forward. Then you have the perfect storm for AMD. Now, of course, on the flip side, you might say, okay, but we've just listened to Intel. Clearly, demand for AI PCs is close to non-existent. The hype is just not there. So maybe we're still going to see some weakness. I'd say, yes, that is definitely a possibility. Then tariffs, exports control, that could also hurt a business like AMD, just like we've seen with Intel and Nvidia, for example. I'd say, yes, you are correct here as well. These are things that you have to take into consideration, and these are things where they're probably going to tell us way more next week. Now, if you look at what the company guided for 3 months ago, so for the upcoming quarter, they guided revenue $7.1 billion. So now the analyst consensus is a bit higher than the guide, which makes sense. I mean, last quarter they did beat it by 1.8%. I'd be surprised if they don't beat it this time as well. Gross profit was also a small beat, but gross margin was a little miss here, 54%, still up year over year by 200 basis points. But as you know, with the new exports control, they already said that they will have to take around $800 million of a hit. So yeah, don't be surprised by that, which of course they shared with us after the quarter ended. Now, for those of you that needed a small reminder, these were the main points that Lisa Su and management told us in the last earnings call. So software investments will continue this year, which is going to be very, very important. There is also going to be an event, I believe. There is Computex at the end of May, and then they'll have an AMD event, I believe, in June or July. They'll talk a little bit more about ROCm. They told us also that the MI325X volume production ramp is progressing well, so I would expect the same comments there. MI350 looking strong. Of course, that's now launching in the middle of the year, so more comments on that will be very welcome. More comments on the MI400. That's on track to launch in 2026. Client segment will grow ahead of the market. So if we're still seeing positive signs in the client side of things, that means they're taking more market share from Intel. And then, of course, the analyst and probably me as well will focus on, well, GPU exit rate for 2025 will be stronger than 2024. Is that still the case? And maybe we could get some more clarity on this thing right here. Strong double-digit growth, where in the second half is going to be better than the first half when we talk about data center. Again, strong double-digit growth can mean a lot of things, so maybe we'll get a bit more clarity. Now, more recently, we've had a semi-analysis report come out, and well, I've basically compiled here a very quick summary of the comparison between AMD and NVIDIA, what AMD is working on, what NVIDIA is doing, how they compare the challenges and the advantages. So this is basically it when we talk about the hardware side of things, when we will talk here a little bit more about the software side of things, and then the market strategy. Yes, it is a bit boring, but it's always good to know. So AMD, in the second half of 2026, we will have the MI450X, that's CDNA 4 based, that will compete with NVIDIA's rack scale solution. The potential for OpenAI and Oracle interest is there. The MI325X sees strong TCO performance, and that is gaining traction according to them. And then the RX 9070 XT, those have improved ray tracing, competes with the RTX 4070 Ti Super. The challenge here is, of course, that AMD has a lower R&D budget and a talent gap. Now, with the acquisition of ZT System, that should help them out a little bit. Then NVIDIA, more specifically only talking here about the A100 and H100. Of course, those are, well, still leading products, even with the H200, the GB200. They talk here a bit about the Blackwell RTX 50 series as well. H200 and Rubin, those are the next-gen GPUs that will extend NVIDIA's lead. So here their advantage, of course, pretty simple. Superior scalability for larger clusters, for example, Meta's Llama for 160,000 GPUs. Then the most important part, I would say, for this year is, of course, the software side of things. So AMD with ROCm, that's open source, that supports TensorFlow, PyTorch, but it is less mature than NVIDIA's CUDA. Now, the progress here is that, well, they have seen rapid software stack improvements since the end of 2024 and better developer relations. The challenge here, of course, that it has seen limited adoption versus CUDA, and historically, ROCm had reliability issues. As for NVIDIA, CUDA has a 10-year lead. They're integrated with an AI framework, and well, they have new modes such as Python DSL, Dynamo strengthened ecosystem, as we've talked about, I believe, during the GTC live stream. So the software side of things, AMD should focus a lot more energy on that, especially this year, if they want to come closer to NVIDIA. And then as for strategy, of course, AMD will focus on cost effectiveness. Lower prices will attract budget-conscious buyers. The acquisitions that they've made are pretty good. Xilinx, Node AI, ZT Systems will boost their AI capabilities. The fact that this is also an open ecosystem should help them out as well. Now, the challenge here, again, is that, well, they have less than 10% of NVIDIA's data center revenue. And they have a more diversified portfolio, which of course could lead to them basically focusing less on GPU, although I don't think that will be the case. Then as for NVIDIA, well, pretty simple. The strategy here is try and keep the market share. The market share is above 90% right now for data center GPUs. So NVIDIA is sitting at the top and they can't really see second place just yet. So to me, again, it's pretty simple. I think we're going to see a strong report by AMD. The question is, how much information are we going to get during that earnings call? 3 months ago, we got some information, but definitely not all of the answers that the market was waiting for. Now, if we could get more information on maybe orders from, well, big tech companies, maybe the hyperscalers, right? When it comes to maybe MI400 already or MI350, I think that could help the sentiment around the stock. Maybe some concrete guidance could help as well, but I'm not getting my hopes up just yet. I do think that we're going to get that in Q2 though, because they'll have better visibility. And then of course, some questions around, well, tariffs and the China exports control as well. So do expect all of that for next week. Now, when it comes to should I buy before, should I buy after? Again, it's up to you. Do you want a position in AMD? Then there's no reason why you should wait. Right? You can start small and build your way up. It's always the same answer especially right now. So all in all, that's about it. Share your expectations down in the comment section below. Don't forget to check out FinChat, 25% off. Super good promotion that's running up until Thursday. So do check them out, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.